Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to look at the latest on the very cold and potentially snowy weather that we are going to be seeing arriving over the next 24 hours. You can see on the live radar at the moment it is pretty uneventful indeed, but the snow will be arriving for northern areas as we head into tomorrow afternoon. We'll have a look at the latest from the weather warnings, which haven't been substantially updated since yesterday, but we will still look at them anyway, just to keep you updated and for anyone who hasn't seen them already. And then we'll have a look at some of the higher resolution on shorter range runs like the UKV, the UK Met Office Global Run, and the Icon as well, to look at the risk of snow through the coming days. It is looking quite likely that we are going to see the typical northerly wind focus areas for those showers. So northern Scotland, eastern coasts of England, Northern Ireland, and perhaps western areas of Wales and southwest England. There could be more widespread snow through Tuesday and Wednesday for northern areas in general, but there is still quite a bit of discrepancy in the size, precipitation typing, and positioning in general of this area of low pressure that is going to develop. Of course, we have also looked at the risk of some more widespread snow further southwards, and unfortunately, if you are looking forward to some snow in perhaps parts of southern England, that low is looking like to track more through northern France there. So it does mean, unfortunately, if you are in those areas wanting some snow, it is looking less and less likely. There still could be disturbances around and showers, so not all hope is lost, but that big wall of snow that was looking showing 20 or 30 centimetres in some of the runs a couple of days ago has slowly drifted southwards like we did anticipate, but has done it, and is looking likely to give some more widespread snow across northern France instead. The other side of that, though, is that it does keep us bitterly cold, and southern areas could miss out on the most substantial snowfall, but will remain bitterly cold with potentially ice days for a number of the working days this upcoming week. And of course, we'll finish with the longer range. It is looking like it is going to be turning slightly milder, or perhaps from some runs a lot milder into next weekend, as we do start to see the westerlies come back. But the longer term trends are still for blocking patterns to remain. So I do think that, yes, westerly for a time, but perhaps not for much longer than a few days, or maybe a week at most, with cold weather, or at least potential for cold weather, returning towards the end of the month. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see it is a fairly uneventful day today. A few showers around, but it's all falling as rain, as we have got a milder wedge of air aloft. But the colder air is now slowly drifting southwards, and will move through substantially over the next 12 hours across Scotland. And by this time tomorrow afternoon, around the 3, 4, 5 p.m. point, that coldest air will be drifting through England and will eventually clear the south coast by Sunday evening. Now, if you look at the temperatures at the moment, it is quite varied. Perhaps some southern areas there, temperatures low single digits, and that's because we've got some fog and some trapped cloud, which is holding those temperatures down. Further northwards, got a little bit more clearer skies, and it's allowing the temperatures to rise a little bit, but all areas will be in these lighter blues in the coming hours and the coming days, as the bitterly cold air does start to arrive, coming straight from the Norwegian Sea. So if we do go over to the weather warnings now, you can see we have got this snow and ice warning issued for northern Scotland for the full 24 hours of tomorrow. Again, hasn't been updated since yesterday, but again, it's looking with a widespread risk of 2 to 5 centimetres, and perhaps even more in a few areas. We've got a new warning, this wind warning issued for parts of the Shetland Islands here from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. as a very strong northerly wind arrives. Could see 50, even 60 miles per hour as it does approach, so could see blizzard conditions here for a time. And then, of course, into Monday, we've got the widespread snow and ice warning still there for the 24 hours of Monday. Been updated, though, to increase the risks. Again, looking at 2 to 5 centimetres, maybe even 10 centimetres in places. And then we look at the Northern Ireland warning, which again hasn't been updated, for 3 a.m. until midnight on Monday. Again, 5 centimetres over some higher routes and a few centimetres to lower lying areas. Again, looking at the risk of these showers, there could be substantially higher amounts in very localised areas. If we do see some banding, other areas could see very minimal. So it is going to be very up and down in terms of those snowfall amounts. But if you are in these regions, it's looking highly likely you at least see falling snow, and probably at least a little bit of settling snow as those temperatures do start to plummet. So do look at the latest UKV to look at the risks over the coming days. You can see the northerly wind start to arrive over the coming hours, and you can see by the overnight hours of tonight, we do see wintry showers starting to arrive for inland Scotland. Those showers turn more widespread and turn more beefy into tomorrow morning, and by the afternoon are looking actually really quite heavy and could even band in places and do even drift into northern England there. So again, that's really popped up in the last 24 hours or so. There could be a bit of snow there, and given the very cold surface temperatures, could even see a few centimetres of snowing. An hour of a snow shower could produce a few centimetres, so got to keep an eye on that. Through Sunday evening, those showers continue and start to impact eastern coastal areas and Northern Ireland, perhaps parts of Wales and southwest England, turning widespread wintriness there as we head into Monday. You can see very heavy snow showers appearing through much of Monday for those areas that are highlighted. But you can see a bit more cloud developing in the west, and that's because we've got a low pressure system starting to cut in to the cold air. Now, it will bring some slightly milder air, but it does bring more heavy precipitation. Initially tracking through Northern Ireland, it brings some very heavy snow. Again, if this does track as it does, there is quite a decent chance that we could even see an amber warning for snow issued, as we could see 5 to 10 centimetres from this system. That progresses slowly eastwards through Tuesday morning, and then again could drift through Northern England and Scotland there, with generally pretty heavy snow there across many of these regions. But again, you can see towards coastal areas, maybe even some very low-lying areas, could be a bit of mixing with rain and sleet mixing in, as we do see the dew points slightly rise as the upper temperatures slowly drift upwards as well. Again, it's going to be very marginal, and it really is going to depend on what happens on the day, the exact development of the low pressure and its track. And eventually that does clear out into the North Sea, giving lots of snow in places, and then as we see it does drift away, could bring a few showers elsewhere, but at this stage it does look like it does drift and move and lose its intensity quite substantially as it drifts southwards, and then the snow showers continue to pile in for Wednesday and Thursday for northern areas once again. So you can see, could see lots of snow for the typical focus areas from northerly wind, but then could see some more widespread snow as that low pressure system develops during the middle of the week. If you look at the snow depth, you can see where the focus areas will be. Again, UKV is generally pretty pessimistic with its snowfall amounts, but you can see northern Scotland going to get buried, Northern Ireland going to see quite a lot, perhaps even western parts of the Republic of Ireland, parts of Wales, especially of the higher ground, maybe eastern England in a few areas here, and then widely across the far north of northern England into southern Scotland. We could see some quite widespread snow there. So you can see the main focus areas. It probably will be a little bit more widespread than this in terms of falling snow and light accumulations, but these are the areas from the latest UKV that looks to see the most amount of snow. And if you look at the upper air temperatures, you can see the frigid temperatures arriving overnight tonight into tomorrow, and filling everywhere really by Sunday afternoon into the evening. Those colder temperatures do completely dominate through much of Monday, and then we see that milder wedge of air moving in for Tuesday. It doesn't look that mild, but it does just nudge those dew points up slightly. That's the problem, and that's why some of it turns to rain perhaps. Through Tuesday into Wednesday though, the cold air filters back in, and then it goes bitterly cold for the rest of the working week before it slowly looks like it could get pushed away through Saturday and Sunday. Now if you look at the max temperatures, you can see through this afternoon, still seeing low single digits further southwards. As I said, we've got that trapped area of cold air under the cloud, but max temperatures further northwards, 6 or 7 degrees. Overnight tonight, frosts will become more widespread, but they're not everywhere as the cold air slowly moves in. Through tomorrow, we could again see the max of 6 or 7 degrees towards the far south, but most areas are more mid to low single digits, especially further northwards where it will be getting hardly above freezing. As we progress through Sunday evening, all areas will be going bitterly cold, widely down to -1 or -2 degrees, or even lower than that, getting out towards -3 or -4 just before sunrise. And then for Monday afternoon, temperatures hardly getting above freezing in many areas, and ice state is looking pretty widespread here. As we progress into Tuesday, again, overnight temperatures bitterly cold, but by the afternoon, temperatures could just drift above freezing, maybe 2 to 4 degrees as we see that slight milder wedge of air move in. But by Wednesday, overnight temperatures dropping down towards freezing overnight again, and then it goes bitterly cold, maybe hardly getting above freezing again as we head into Wednesday, and that is likely to occur again into Thursday, where the overnight temperatures are absolutely frigid, widely -5 to maybe -10. That is absolutely bitterly cold. And yes, if you're not seeing any snow, then it is going to be absolutely frigid regardless. So yes, some areas don't look likely to see any crazy snow, but you are going to see the bitterly cold temperatures, and it is going to feel like you're in the Arctic through the rest of this week. If you go over to the UK Met Office Global Run, it's similar to the UKV, but it's not the exact same run. And it is slightly lower resolution, but it runs out until next weekend, which I do want to look at in a little bit more detail, especially towards Thursday, Friday, Saturday time, where there could be more risks of snowfall. So you can see as we head into Sunday, snow showers start packing into the north. We could, as I said, see them drift further inland. UK Met Office run here definitely suggesting that. And then as we head into Monday, snow showers continue to drift in again. Look at this, through the parts of the West Midlands, central southern England. The early hours of Monday showing a few snow showers drifting in. So again, we can't rule that out. And we'll just have to keep a very close eye on the showers, how they develop and how far inland they move. As we progress through Monday into Tuesday, snow showers continuing peppering in, and then we see that large area of snow move in. Again, there is the risk of it mixing, but really hitting parts of northern England there, before eventually does clear into Wednesday, but continuing to give potentially even some winteriness across southern and southeastern areas there through the late hours of Wednesday. So this is why I said there is still a chance we see snow quite widely, or at least falling snow or low amounts of snow. It's just that significant 20-30 centimetres is looking almost non-existent now. But still the risk of showers quite widely there as that system moves through. It's a very complicated little area of low pressure, and again, depending on how it forms, its exact track, will decide where the heaviest precipitation and where precipitation generally will fall. Through Wednesday into Thursday, snow showers continue to move in. They do start to lose a little bit of their intensity as we do head through Friday into Saturday, as the wind direction starts to shift, as we do start to see westerly winds trying to push back in. Now, if you compare to the Icon run, again, you can see the snow showers starting to pile in through the coming hours. Again, it is showing a bit of a wall of snow there. Unlikely to be that intense, but still shows you the widespread nature of it. Even through the Sunday evening, again, highlighting a few snow showers even into southern areas there. Again, have to keep a close eye on that. Doesn't mean they're definitely going to happen, but just shows you that the risk is there. As we progress into Monday, those showers continue to pepper those sort of typical northerly wind areas. And then as we head into Tuesday and Wednesday, you start to see that area of significant precipitation drifting in. There is the risk, as I said, of it turning more into sort of mix. But you can see here it really impacts most of Scotland and northern England, giving lots of heavy snow as it does move through. And then eventually, as we head into Wednesday and Thursday, we still can see those continual showers. But look, there are more little kinks and drifting in those isobars, which could allow more little lower areas of pressure to develop, and again that could bring a more widespread risk of snow. If we do look at the snow depth towards the end of the week, you can see, again, similar to the UKV, showing quite a lot of snow in places, but not quite as optimistic as the UKV in terms of snow depth, but I do think that is, again, just the Icon run underdoing it a little bit. But again, anywhere where you can see blue is showing accumulating snow and is more likely to be slightly more widespread and slightly more significant than this. So it just highlights where the focus areas will be, mostly northern areas at this stage, but we could see something a little bit more widespread towards the middle to latter part of the week. It is just going to be all dependent on the exact positioning of that low. And if you look at the longer range, of course, looking at what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks, unfortunately, if you're looking for more colder weather, it is looking like it's going to turn westerly towards next weekend. You can see north and northeasterly winds drift in over the coming hours. Low pressure continues to barrage us, but by next weekend, we see low pressure come in. Now, the GFS is very, very progressive with this. Other runs do take it a little bit slower, but the GFS bringing some very stormy conditions in by next weekend and just bringing barrages of low pressure in. Now, there are hints, definitely here, especially from the GFS, of trying to build heights up towards Scandinavia, and that does look like a really quite possible scenario, given that the longer-term blocking trends are not going anywhere. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, as that would definitely give a more widespread risk of snow, especially if you are further southwards, for example. But at this stage, GFS just bringing back in the westies, going pretty much zonal. Back to the standard pattern we'd expect this time of year if there were no sort of perturbations in the general pattern. If you do look at the GM, again, northerly winds arriving, turning very cold and very wintry for some. And eventually, as we head into next weekend, we do see the westerlies move in, but it does take its time. By Sunday, high pressure is trying to build in, and again, trying to wedge towards Scandinavia, but not having too much success at this stage. It's actually driving some very cold air into southeast Europe. UK going very mild and southwesterly, but there is it's very easy for this high pressure to shift further northwards. Definitely when we have got blocking trends, but we will have to see this big lobe of tropospheric polar vortex break up before that becomes possible. But you can see again, reverting to a westerly flow. There is a possibility that that just happens, but given the longer term trends, given the climate drivers we've got and the weather patterns that we do have at the moment, I don't suspect it'll be this easy, and I don't suspect it'll be this straightforward back to westerly condition. I think there could be a few surprises in store in terms of the models flip-flopping around. If you do have a look at the ECMWF, again, pretty similar northerly winds coming in, of course, staying bitterly cold through the rest of the week. Eventually, those low pressure systems arrive from the Atlantic and again go flat and westerly back, completely zonal, and looking like there was no blocking at all across the north of the Atlantic. The northern hemisphere looks like it's going to recover completely as well, so that is very interesting indeed. So we will just have to see how it does develop at this stage. I do have quite a lot of pessimism towards this, as it would be pretty strange to go from a really block pattern at the moment with the tropospheric polar vortex all over the place to a very strong tropospheric polar vortex, which kind of goes against what we're seeing up in the stratosphere. So we will have to keep a close eye on it. I'm pessimistic of this pattern coming off, but we will have to see. If we do finish by looking at the ensembles, you can see this clearly shown here. Very cold over the next week, turning to average, slightly above average perhaps, but there is still a lot of deviations there. Some runs are keeping us cold, or even very cold in the longer term, but most are average to slightly above average. You can see how frigid it's going to be this week. Those temperatures are hardly getting above freezing for about 5 or 6 days or so. Really cold indeed. And there still is the risk of snow for southern areas, especially as said through Wednesday, Thursday. But we will have to keep an eye on that. And of course, there are risk of showers that won't really crop up all too much on the ensembles. You can see there is a little bump of ensemble members here. Maybe half of them are showing a bit of snow overnight Sunday night, but we will have to see again if that does develop. I think that was something that the Icon and the UK Met Office Global Run showed, but at this stage we'll just have to see tomorrow if that still is cropping up within the ensembles and the models. We do finish by looking at the ECMWF. It is broadly very similar, very cold over the coming days. You see the upper air temperatures don't rise as much in the middle of the week, emphasising that the ECMWF not quite developing that low as much, perhaps meaning more of it's falls of snow, but there will be generally less precipitation around. Be seen to next weekend, temperatures do rise, perhaps slightly slower than the GFS ensembles take it, but most do go average to above average in the very long term. But you can see precipitation does increase for a time, but it's not a big wall of precipitation, which does mean that there could be some high pressure trying to develop, especially over the top of us. And we saw what happened when high pressure developed over the top of us earlier this week, which developed easterly winds and eventually now bringing a big Greenland block. So perhaps could we see a bit of a recycling pattern where it goes westerly for a few days, high pressure builds back in, and then we go colder again into the final days of January. We will have to see, but I do think there is a real possibility there. The pattern does not look likely to revert straight back to westerly. If it does, then again, that is completely against what the longer term trends have been, but we'll have to see, of course, in the coming days. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Make sure you stay safe out there over the coming days. Even if you're not seeing any snow, there's still going to be severe frosts around, ice, and extremely cold temperatures. So do make sure if you are going outside for any prolonged period of time, you get your hat and gloves out, as it is going to be really quite frigid. Again, coldest weather we've seen in at least a few years. Definitely in terms of those widespread overnight low temperatures, it's going to be absolutely frigid in many areas, so do stay safe out there. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.